This is Rosa banksiae, and there are two colors you're going to see here. Lutea is the yellow one that you're looking at, and white banksiae or alba plena, it will be the white one that you'll be seeing throughout the film. So these are a large rambling rose. It's virtually evergreen, depends on how cold your climate is. Where I live in an inland valley in Northern California, we get down in the 20s Fahrenheit during most winters. And this is mostly evergreen. It'll drop a number of its leaves, but it'll largely be evergreen. The other nice thing about this rose is it's virtually thornless. You usually don't see any thorns on it, and that's pretty rare for a rose. See this beautiful cluster of flowers. So it's known for its huge display or massing of flowers in the spring. Here's a nice close-up of alba plena or white banksiae. And by the way, the white one has a light fragrance, and the yellow one has no fragrance. Here's a good look at the leaf. So if you see here, this is a very large plant. These can reach 20 feet across. And the one here, this yellow one you just saw, that's probably about a 3 to 5-year-old plant on a hillside. And they really do sprawl. They're fast growing, especially once they've been established. They really take off like a rocket. So I think one of the biggest things I can tell you in terms of design is make sure you give these space. I would give them at least 15 feet in diameter so that you're not forced into having to do a lot of pruning, because once they get going, you can see here, I mean, this thing's about 12 to 15 feet across, this white one here. Once they get going, it's just too much plant to try and hold back, and the root system, once it gets established and larger, even if you try and push it back occasionally, it's going to come right back on you. So you saw a couple of pictures in there where it's more confined on a fence and well, both on fences. And if you stay on top of it every year, I think that's fine. You saw that along a split rail fence. But I think the safer way to use this is where you give it a lot of room and let it do what it naturally does, where it just sprawls out. And by the way, I think those are about 5 to 6 feet tall when you're this massing right here, just for a reference for height. So when this blooms is April, or it's gonna early spring is the best way to put it. In Northern California where we are, these shots are all being taken in April, and you get a solid month to a month and a half of bloom. You know, I prefer the yellow one in the terms of a lot of white roses. My complaint is when they start to go off and they're done, the brown shows up very close against white. I'm sorry, very early against the white. You can see that starting to happen on some of these white flowers. Whereas the yellow is a little more forgiving as the petals start to fade and turn brown. You just don't see it as much. So it kind of gives the impression that you get a longer bloom, because the minute the brown starts to take over against the white, it really loses most of its appeal as a plant. And you know, if you've got big areas where you need some coverage, you don't want to use a lot of water, and you want a big splash of color in the spring, I think that's really a great way to use this plant. This is along a busy road in our town in Pleasanton, California. And they've got big areas that they don't want to spend a lot of water on. They don't want to have to maintain them. And then, you know, in the spring we get this big show, and it's a lot of ooh and ah, which is nice. And then they really don't have to do anything to it. These have been sitting there for years unmaintained, and that works. So I would say that's the best way to be using this plant if you're going to. You know, it's not like most more modern roses. This does not rebloom. It does one long bloom in the spring, and then that's done. So you've got about 10 to 11 months of not a whole lot going on with this plant. So that's what I can tell you. It's very easy to grow. It's hardy down to about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is drought tolerant once it's established. And disease and pest free. Very easy plant to grow. and that is Rosa banksiae. Lutea is the yellow one, and white banksiae is the white one, or Alba plena.